What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, okay? We're sitting at about $105,000 right now. It is the 26th of January. We have about 20 hours and 1 minute left in this day right now. We're very fresh into the new day. And before we get going on this video, I want to reference yesterday's video a little bit, what we talked about in yesterday's video. Because in yesterday's video, we identified that while, yes, this was a low here, while, yes, this was a high, and essentially you were moving up throughout that whole time, we identified that in that move, there were parts where you moved a little bit more pronounced, where it's a little bit more strong. And if you go back through the cycle, there are parts where you have a little bit more pronunciation in how you like to do things, right? In your moves up is all I'm trying to say. We identified in those moves, in those parts of the move up, the strong parts, that normally it's the biggest days are actually on Mondays and Sundays and Wednesdays, sometimes Fridays, but oftentimes Mondays and Sundays are really big days. And the reason why I'm bringing that up at the first kind of instance of this video is today is Sunday. Today is Sunday, and oftentimes, and just from what I remember of yesterday's video, Sundays, they can be big days, and there are a lot of Sundays in the cycle that are bigger moving days, but oftentimes they're bigger. They start their move at the either second half of the day, and they don't normally initiate the move. Sundays aren't normally the days that initiate the moves. Normally it's Wednesdays or Mondays that kind of initiate the moves, even Fridays, but not Sundays. Sundays tend to be a day, if it's a big day, it's in the midst of the move. I don't know if that makes any sense, but let's just see, like right here, for example, right? One could argue here from these little days where you're moving up, Sunday did kick up this next part. Okay, one could argue that, but I would say that really it was this Wednesday that kicked things off over here. But all I'm trying to say is, whether it's a Sunday, a Monday, or Wednesday, whatever, those tend to be our biggest days. And it's not Sundays that lead to breakouts. It's normally Mondays that do. And you can go back and do that yourself. I'm not going to do it here. If you want to watch the video from yesterday where we validate that a little bit, you can do that as well. It's not a guarantee. It's just a theory that I'm running. But what I'm trying to say is we have 19 hours and 59 minutes left in today, Sunday. I don't think we move up until tomorrow. So rest, be patient, sit on your hands. Don't do anything too irrational. If you're trying to get money into the markets, if you're trying to get things set up and you're trying to prepare yourself for this next move up, we might have about one more day to do it, but I suspect that it will be Monday, tomorrow, that Bitcoin is breaking out to new all-time highs. If it's not Monday, if it's today that we begin moving up, then it would likely be in the second half of the day, okay, closing out the day in that way. And I would expect that Sunday to Monday pump, if today pumps. We would definitely have a green day tomorrow as well. But I don't expect that today pumps so much. I think it's going to be Monday, just based off of that analysis from yesterday. But let's go through and do some shorter term stuff, and then we'll look at where our targets are by the end of this move, by the end of the week, stuff like that, okay? One last time, guys, hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll get into it, okay? So here we are. Looking at the daily RSI, where we are, it's almost as if what we're doing here should have brought us down. We should have rejected a little bit more, but we didn't. We're finding support on the 60. So that's a really bullish look, right? It's like here. When you're getting below the 60, you should have gone down lower, but you were below it for just a day, and then you got right back above it, and then you went into the overbought zone. And if we look at that relative to the price, what you did there, I mean, you moved up. Come on. You moved up, you consolidated, and that's when your RSI went below the 60 and back above it. And once you got overbought, you went to your next high, and then a higher low, and then higher highs on beyond that, right? So all this would say is that we're going for a higher high, which technically wouldn't need to be much more past 109,000. But I have a feeling if we're like this right now, if we're testing this kind of double top look right here, when we break above it, I don't think that we would stop for any time kind of soon. And in fact, if we look at the range relative to its fib extensions, from a high here to a low there, the next stopping point would be at least 114K, but most likely 122K. And I say most likely because we've been consolidating up here for so long, right? If we just made a straight run all the way up here, okay, I would expect we find resistance here or here. We probably don't just run all the way up to the 1618. But we've done some gradual and healthy consolidating and just building up to these levels. I'm not saying that we won't find turbulence here. I'm just saying I don't think that's where we're going to stop, right? I think that we would at least see 122K and beyond at this rate, man, by the end of next week, right? It's Sunday today. I think we're going to start the move tomorrow. If we're not at 122K by the end of next week, we're going to be well on our way there. We'll be at like 117K, 114K at the least, but beyond that, I think that we'll be working our way up to higher targets, right? Because this is just relative to this fib here. If we zoom out, we go to the weekly time frame. We put on the high to low of that consolidation phase we had from March until November there, basically October, whatever. High to low. With how we're interacting with this 886 area, the 1886 to the 200 level, we found resistance there. We pulled back and found support on the 1618, and we held support here. You guys, this is a very, very bullish phase of consolidation. Normally, when you find resistance here, you don't find support on the 1618, at least sustained support. Normally, you go at least to the 1414, if not the 1272. You consolidate a little bit more in this range. But with how tight it's been and for how long you've been up here and this tight it's been, my thoughts are that when you break out, you don't stop at the first stop. You probably go at least to the next stop, which the next stop would be 142K. That's the 2618 extension. 2618 extension, that's the double golden ratio from the high to the low of that consolidation phase, that halving time consolidation phase that we had, right? And that would make sense to me. And take it for, you know, for what it's worth, from my own personal experience doing this now for a little bit of time using fibs. It's kind of my main tool that I like to use. It's what I'm most proficient at. Whenever you see this kind of support being held at the 1618, there's this, I don't know why it's like this, but oftentimes you'll see if you're respecting the 1618, you'll respect the 2618. Does that make sense? If you went down, you found support at the 1272, you would respect the 2272. Is the dots connecting there? It seems almost too simple, but it really is that simple. And it's not always like that. Just because we're finding support here doesn't mean we have to go here. Doesn't mean we have to go there. We could fall short. Doesn't mean we have to stop there. We could go through it. But I personally would, with how high and tight this consolidation phase is in the fibs, with finding support on the 1618, I really do anticipate a $140,000 plus Bitcoin in the coming month of February. I really think, and we're going to begin that move. We're starting that move just like here, where we were consolidating and we started this move this week that brought us up to this consolidation phase. I think we're starting the move that brings us up above 140K. We're going to start it not today, but tomorrow. If we do start it today, we got 19 hours, 54 minutes left. It's going to be in that last 12 hours, maybe even that last 8 hours of the day, right? But it's not going to be anything crazy this week. It's going to be next week that's going to be crazy. That's my theory, okay? Looking at the weekly RSI, if we close here at about 105K or higher, we will be overbought, okay? And I want to identify what we do when we get overbought in the weekly RSI. Let's just look at the, if we're looking at this where we were before, let's just use this first instance right here. So here, we got overbought. You weren't overbought on this week, right? You were in the overbought zone the next week. So we'll move it over one more. Boom, there you go. Weekly RSI in the overbought zone. Here, you did run for 1 week, and then you kind of consolidated for a very, very, very long time. This was in the beginning of the cycle, whenever moves are a little bit less, let's say, less strong. They're just not as strong. It's a little bit more meticulous getting out of this range. You're figuring out, am I done with the bull market? Am I starting am I done with the bear market? Am I starting a bull market? Things like this. But you did continue to grow. You didn't grow much, but you did technically grow for the next, you consolidated for 3 weeks and then you topped off on that 4th week. Sorry guys, had to clear my throat there. But this might not be the best example, but still technically you got overbought, and once you got overbought, you did grow more. Okay, you did grow more technically. Okay, but that might not be the best example there. Here you get overbought. It's a little bit more pronounced or a little bit more developed in the bull cycle. As soon as you get overbought here, wouldn't have been this week, it would have been this week here. That was just the beginning of the move, right? That was if you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks of a move, that was only on the 2nd week. And, mind you, that was a pretty powerful move that week, but you had a lot more to go, right? It didn't stop there when you got overbought. You got out of the overbought zone. You were overbought, you got out of it, and then you got back into it. When you got back into it, it was this week, not this week. You were just barely out of it, right? That's where that little crux is there. But right here, this week, you got back into it. That week there, you got into it. You grew for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks after that, right? You continued to grow. And that was about a month. 5 weeks is about a month, a little bit over a month, right? This was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Is that right? 3, 4, yeah, 6 weeks that you continue to grow. So about a month and a half there. if we close here, I don't know about you guys, but the last 2 times, even actually the last 3 times that we did this, each one of those weeks, that was a 13% week. This week here was a 15% week, and that week was a 26% week. Each one of those weeks were pretty big weeks. This is a pretty small week. So I think that while it does signal that we are in the overbought zone and that we're just getting this next move started, while it signals that, I think that it also signals that we will potentially identify this next move earlier in a price perspective of the move relative to any of these other ones whenever we would have had that notice of being overbought. Does that make sense? All I'm trying to say by that is by the time we got overbought here, we were already up here. By the time we got overbought here and we had that definite on a closing weekly period, we were already up here. Here, we're going to have that, and we didn't even make the move yet. We're not even at new all-time highs yet. So I think this is more opportunistic. This is going to be a powerful signal, and I really do think that it's going to send the prices higher for at least the next, by what we've seen so far, it likely would be a month or more. So this move could genuinely top off in March, right? And I know there's so many people that get all kinds of worked up because the dates get pushed back sometimes, right? I pushed the dates back. I was expecting that we'd be at 120K, 130K by the end of January, and now it's more like, and well, I'm not pushing that back. I think 120K by the end of January is actually still possible, but 130K is more likely in the beginning of February. Okay, 140K. I think will happen in February, but the targets that I've had for 170 to 180K, that might be a beginning of March, middle of March thing. And you can get upset at me pushing the prices back if you want. It's not me holding the prices back. I'm doing my best to predict the price whenever it happens, right? I'm confident in my abilities to predict that the price will find resistance at these certain areas. It's just when are we going to break out, right? The reason why the time frame keeps getting pushed back is because I'm making the same predictions here that I was making back here. We haven't moved. We've just moved sideways. So the prediction gets back. I had one guy who was commenting and he was saying, you just push things back all the time. He's like, you don't even know what you're talking about. Nobody knows, man. Nope, nobody knows. Nobody knows the future. I bet you didn't know the future, whoever you were writing that shitty comment. Nobody knows the future, my friends, and it's only logical that as we keep moving sideways, as we keep moving without having our breakout move, if we were anticipating it to happen here, but now it's happening here, it only makes sense that the same destination would now be at a later date. It only makes sense, right? So people can get mad at me for it. I'm just the talking head. I got nothing else for you guys. I'm going to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I appreciate you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.